Good afternoon. My name is Autumn Kay, and this is my persuasive speech for Communications 115. This is my audience. Hello, audience. And today's persuasive speech will be on the greater benefits, my PowerPoint presentation, of GMOs and what they do for society. My specific purpose is to persuade my audience that the use of GMOs is necessary to feed the world. My central statement is genetically modified organisms are necessary to feed the world. We are slaves to our society. People do not have the time, resources, or knowledge to garden. So how do we feed our nations and how do we feed the world? Through my research, I found three main reasons why we should consume genetically modified organisms. Growers can help feed other countries with the use of GMOs. GMOs is short for genetically modified organisms. The inexpensive costs of feeding the world and other nations with the use of genetically modified organisms is super helpful to third world countries and such. Non-GMO foods use more time and resources. Growers can feed our nation and help other countries with the use of GMOs. First, what are GMOs? GMOs are genetically modified organisms and are created by modifying DNA, copying the genes of cash crop organisms. And this was found from the Council of Biotechnology Information through 2013-2016. Crops. There are many crops commercially available. There are 9 main crops: alfalfa, canola, corn, cotton, papaya, squash, soybeans, sugar beets, and this was found from biotechnology as well. Soybeans are huge in Colorado. There's a lot of soybean fields that produce GMO soybeans. This is not a science, it is a law and morality. Indeed, having the ability to feed nations while allowing the agricultural industry to prosper. And that's from Spectre 2016. Broken down, that means if we have the ability to feed starving people, why wouldn't we take it? This is not about science, it's about morality. It's about helping other people out. The ability to grow GMO crops give growers the opportunity to feed and contribute better crops to more people. Genetically modified organisms create a cost-efficient means of feeding the masses. It is found that GMOs have advantages profitability-wise and serve under pest and weed pressure situations better, meaning that with the use of GMOs, we don't have to use as many pesticides and weed repellents. So the consumption is actually healthier. This was found by the Riley 2015. The cost of organic and non-GMO foods is much more expensive to grow. We've all been to Whole Foods, or this morning we visited a farmer's market, and though the goods sold there, the products were nicer and organic, the cost was 3 times the cost of GMO costs, or genetically modified organisms. If I could afford to eat organic, I would, but realistically, to feed the world and starving people of third world countries, the use of genetically modified organisms is helpful. The cost of inventive minds can work not only to serve poverty-stricken and overpopulated societies, that's what America was built off of, is inventive minds, but we can work towards developing new solutions in pesticides with the use of GMOs, because we don't have to use pesticides and we don't have to use weedicides, if you will, or weed repellents. Other benefits include a cleaner crop, following a GMO crop, better soil conditions, and reduced weed burdens returned to the land. Again, that's from Riley 2015. Non-GMO foods. To go into transition 3, non-GMO foods use more time and resources. The use of pesticides has to be monitored when you can consume non-genetically modified organisms, there are more pesticides and herbicides. So you have to monitor, the growers, if you will, have to monitor the levels of pesticides and herbicides. With genetically modified organisms, you can just plant and grow. It's easier, it's more manageable. GMO crop production causes no negative environmental effects with conventional cropping and may offer environmental advantages according to News Report Riley 2015. There are no adverse effects, so it's a greener process. It takes less chemicals, it takes less machinery, it takes less time, it takes less resources. The growers have to spend more time and energy verifying different scientific processes with the use of organic or non-GMO food. So our money is being spent for these growers to follow the scientific process and make sure that we are consuming cleaner product and organic product. Water levels used are monitored, and there is inefficient use in organic growing. So when we're not looking at GMOs, we actually use more water. And as a world, we're struggling with the use of water. Soil fields have to be monitored, fertilized, and rotated more as opposed to monocultural means genetically modified organisms. Transition number 4, why genetically modified organisms aren't used world round. The countries such as Europe that have more financially stable situations don't use genetically modified organisms because there is no FDA labeling or approved scientific labeling and correlation. However, the risk associated with GM herbicide-resistant weeds should not be ignored. They could diminish any green benefits. There is a fear in consuming GMO-riddled foods to these other nations, but there are third world countries that would benefit from the use of genetically modified organisms. Some opinions suggest there have not been enough hypothesis-based science or proper scientific method testing to use GMOs. In conclusion, if your spouse or child were in an accident and an organ was needed, one would make sure that they got the organ needed. If we have a way to feed the world, why would we not use our resources, such as genetically modified organisms, and make sure everybody is fed? As in America, we are a fed nation, but there are many nations worldwide where hunger is a daily obstacle and concern. I appreciate you listening to my speech on genetically modified organisms. Have a fun and safe, happy 4th of July.